Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for joining Dangerous Ideas. I'm Lee Camp, the most censored comedian, kind of journalist in the world. No, not in the world, in the country. I'm certainly not the most censored comedian in the world. There are some in prison right now. And in terms of journalists around the world, well, Israel is busy killing many of them. Let's see, where is it? Israel has killed 12 journalists in 1 week, each one of those being a war crime. But yeah, 12 journalists already murdered in this insanity. Israel has killed at least 12 journalists since the start of the Blitz on Gaza as of October 15th. In the first 9 days of the fighting, at least 12 journalists were killed, 2 were missing, 8 were injured. This is coming from the Committee to Protect Journalists. Journalists engaged in dangerous professional missions in areas of armed conflict shall be considered as civilians. They shall be protected as such under the conventions and this protocol. But we know that Israel has not worried at all about murdering journalists for many years now. In the Great March of Return, when many Palestinians walked or ran towards the border fence unarmed and went towards that fence, the IDF picked off many journalists, many of them with the press across their chests or helmets, as you can see in this photo. But yeah, that's just journalists in terms of war crimes. But people are waking up. I will say that. And I have a bunch of videos to bring you, including Joe Biden. Just the king of eloquence, that guy, Joe Biden. Just every word that comes out of him is just the well-spoken poetry. I am trying to lay on the sarcasm as thick as possible. But this was Congress just a few hours ago. I mean, a day ago, but that's what I mean by a few hours. This is Jewish Voice for Peace. I read their statement the other day, but so this is almost entirely Jews occupying the Capitol building here in the United States of America. And these are Jews against the genocide, against the apartheid state, and as am I. And here they are. Let me play this video for you of them occupying the Capitol. They've got signs that say ceasefire. They've got signs saying peace, calling for ceasefire. But as you can see, people are waking up to the reality around the world that what Israel's doing is not okay. It is not defending itself. You cannot defend yourself by bombing children and innocent people. That is not defending itself. People are waking up to this brutality, to this genocide. And as you can see, hundreds occupied the Capitol. I want to bring you some more of what they said, what Jewish Voice for Peace said about that moment inside our nation's capital. They said today 500 Jews were arrested. So it was more than that, but that was the number that were arrested, because normally police, and I've been to that Capitol many times, I've protested there, police will give multiple warnings. They'll say, we're going to arrest you if you remain. If you still remain, we're going to arrest you. And they keep reminding people that if they'd like to leave. So I'm sure some left because they didn't feel like donating their time to the state that moment. But many of them stayed and said, we're not leaving this Capitol building until there is a ceasefire in Israel, ceasefire by Israel. And of course, the United States could do that. The United States could cause that. The United States could demand a ceasefire, and Israel would have to abide, not least of which, because not the least reason wouldn't, I'm phrasing this poorly, but not least of which, because however you guys rephrase it and send me an email with it, because the U.S. could just cut off the billions in aid. Just like boop, done. But of course, that's perhaps the smallest reason that Israel will do anything the United States says. Jewish Voice for Peace says 500 Jews were arrested and 10,000 took to the streets to support and to demand a ceasefire and an end to Palestinian genocide. We shut down Congress to draw mass attention to the U.S. complicity in Israel's ongoing oppression of Palestinians. But our work isn't done. We can and will stop genocide in Gaza, but this horrific situation was only possible because of the groundwork laid by the Israeli state over 75 years ago. This horrific situation. Is that what I said? And yeah, this is all the harm that Israel has done as an apartheid state has led up to this. This didn't start yesterday, as I've said many times about the proxy war in Ukraine. It didn't start yesterday. You need to learn the history. You need to know what went on years ago to lay the groundwork for this. Jewish Voice for Peace continues. Since 1948, the Israeli government built a system of apartheid and illegal occupation. Just as we demand an end to genocide in Gaza, we must put the same effort into dismantling the systems of Zionism, apartheid, and colonialism that brought us to this moment. The only way to peace and safety for everyone is through ensuring justice and equality for everyone. That means standing in solidarity with Palestinians. It means building a world beyond Zionism. It means creating systems of safety through solidarity. Will you join us? And if you want to join Jewish Voice for Peace, you can look them up online. They have a website and all that good stuff. They'd be pretty remiss if they still didn't have a website at this point. And I do not believe you have to be Jewish to join up with Jewish Voice for Peace and help their mission. But anyway, that's the occupation of the Capitol that just went on. Eventually, 500 people were arrested in order to stop that occupation, in order to allow a genocide to continue, in order to shut up those voices so that genocide can continue. That's what the goal is, and that's why so many of us have been suppressed for years. I am about to bring you those clips of Joe Biden and the amazing results of his trip to Israel, which has just changed everything. It has changed everything. But speaking of those who have to be shut up because they speak the truth about this apartheid state, about these war crimes we've seen, my friend Jackie Luqman just lost her show, was just deplatformed. She also writes for Black Agenda Report. She does wonderful work. You should look her up if you don't know her. But so this is from blackagendareport.org, another great media outlet. And if you're looking, I know in this shitstorm of chaos as the news swirls, you wonder where to get information. And I wonder the same. I can't have all the information. And even if I did have all the information, I couldn't bring it all to you in the hour I have with you each day. So if you're looking for way more than just this hour, do check out, and it's not the only place, definitely, but do check out radindymedia.com. It's lost the word. Aggregator. It's an aggregator. I was going to say alligator. Is that wrong? Radindymedia. Is it an alligator? It alligates. It alligators news from, it goes chomp, 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 grabs up other news. I think aggregator is more accurate. It's an aggregator of news that grabs it from all that anti-corporate, non-mainstream media, indie outlets that have been ridiculously suppressed and censored, but you get them all there. So if you're missing them, if they're not showing up on your timelines, you can go to radindymedia.com. And, it updates 2-3 times a day with new stuff. And there's no cost, there's no fee, there's not even any ads on it. So radindymedia.com. And it has, Mint Press is an amazing outlet. Gray Zone, Black Agenda Report, Electronic Intifada, all those. Yes, Holly, it's a news alligator. That is correct. Alligator of news. But anyway, so Jackie, along with Sean Blackman, they host this show that I've appeared on many times called By Any Means Necessary. Excellent show. And it was carried by the Sputnik radio network, which is like for radio what RT used to be for television. Yes, it was funded by Russia, but they got to speak freely against empire, against corporations. And so that same reason I had my show on RT is why they were there. And they're Americans. They, have nothing to do with Russia. They just found the one radio station that would let them speak their mind. Well, apparently that has ended recently because they have been very outspoken, not surprisingly, against the apartheid state of Israel. And I guess right now, in the midst of this propaganda push, it was too much. We don't know all the details because Jackie points out that she's not allowed to give all the details. But she says on Tuesday, October 10th, by any means necessary, ceased its broadcast. This was not a voluntary decision by the show's hosts, Sean Blackman and myself, Jackie Lukeman. For legal reasons, there is not a lot I can say about the ending of the show and our termination. What I will say is that the ending of our show was a consequence of our commitment to anti-Zionist principles, which we adhered to in our personal organizing and expressing in our work on the show throughout its existence. While we consistently presented our guests with whatever corporate media narrative was spun about a given controversial topic we'd invited them to discuss, we understood the power of imperialist propaganda and never legitimized the lies of the U.S. empire and its lackeys and vassal states. She then goes on to hint that it might have had something to do with the story that Hamas had beheaded babies, which, if you had any kind of sense, you knew that was utterly false from the jump. And sure enough, it has been proven completely false. Even the White House, even king of propaganda, the White House and Joe Biden have been forced to walk back their statements that Joe Biden claimed he had seen photos and video of the decapitated babies, which don't exist. Now, maybe in Joe Biden's imaginary world, he thought he had seen something. Who knows what kind of weird spatial virtual reality he lives in at that point with the number of meds that are pumping through his system. I'm sure it's got to be trippy. There's got to be just colors and tracers on everything, and it's just a 24/7 LSD trip that I'm sure he's in. So I don't know that he didn't see video, but no one else in the world has seen video of this fake story. So she goes on to imply that that is the reason that she and Sean refused to give in to this complete propaganda, and that combined with their anti-Zionist views. And for those who need reminding, Zionism does not mean Judaism. Judaism and Zionism are completely different things. Zionism is the support of a Jewish state where you do not have freedom of religion, if you want to vote, at least. It is run and owned by one religion as an apartheid state. And so you can be non-Jewish and Zionist. So when someone says Zionist, don't just hear Jewish people, because that is not accurate. All right. So Jackie Lukeman, I'm going to try and have her on in the coming days to both talk about that and just to talk about everything, because she's awesome. But I hope you continue to follow her and support her as she is purged from these airways. Basically, they just did exactly to her what was done to me with Redacted Tonight over a year and a half ago. So, yeah, look her up if you haven't already. But we're seeing this, right? Again and again. Each person that spoke the truth slowly but truly is being deplatformed, sliced away until you just have the propaganda. Those who remain are the propagandists. Those who remain without any pushback, there's a reason they're still there, because they're willing to do that garbage. Also, Richard Medhurst was just demonetized by YouTube for his news, and bringing the truth about this conflict. I'll try and have him on soon as well. All right, so I know I'm talking fast, but that's kind of when I have a lot to talk about, and I don't want to miss it all. And I'm actually going to try and get some stories that are not just Israel-Palestine. But first, let's show some updates on what's going on over there. And this is even from ABC News. I love when even your mainstream corporate propaganda boiling garbage bags have to report some of the truth, because it's just everywhere. And they're like, we kind of have to acknowledge it. What do we do? So this is actually from ABC News. Humanitarian crisis in Gaza is an unprecedented catastrophe, the UN says. An unprecedented catastrophe is unfolding for civilians in Gaza, according to the UN, which is pleading for Islamic leaders to allow humanitarian efforts into the territory to help those trapped there. I don't know why they're pleading to Islamic leaders. Like, The ones who need to allow aid into Gaza are frickin' Israelis and Americans and Brits and France. Those are the ones that need to allow it in to pressure Israel. But either way, the where's the name of this organization? The United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees, Commissioner General Lazzarini evoked the harrowing images from the hospital in Gaza that was just bombed, where nearly 500 people were killed in a blast on Tuesday night, to highlight the plight of the civilians who remain in Gaza. Another airstrike struck a UNRWA school sheltering 4,000 displaced people on Tuesday, killing at least 6 people. So here's the thing, and I know some people are trying to, mainly coming from Israel and the United States, some people are trying to say, oh, it wasn't Israel that bombed the hospital. No, Israel, think about the logic of this. Israel is just committing war crime after 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 war crime, checks notes after war crime after war crime after war crime after war crime, and yet wants you to believe, no, the hospital hit was just over. They did it to themselves. Sometimes you just shoot a missile at your own hospitals. That happens. No, but beyond that, don't get bogged down in some fight as to who bombed the hospital and killed, 100 people or 500 people or whatever it was. I think 500. Don't get involved in it, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They literally, in the same sentence in this article, they say Israel just bombed a school, a UN school, sheltering 4,000 displaced people. I'm sure 1,000 of them or more were children, killing at least 6. So in the same breath, this article is talking about the hospital, but they also talk about Israel's bombing of a school, a UN school where people were sheltering. So it doesn't matter. The hospital is they've dropped thousands of bombs on this heavily populated area of Gaza in just the past few days. This hospital is one of many. They have hit medical clinics. They've hit bakeries. They've hit schools. They've hit all of it. Like being like, well, no, just that hospital it doesn't freaking matter. Besides the fact that it's insane to be like, oh yeah, Hamas, which doesn't even have the ability to bomb with bombs that large, accidentally fired a missile at themselves. It's just nonsense. It's just garbage. But anyway, let's see Joe Biden respond to a question about this hospital. This is him on the plane as he's flying back from Israel. And it was striking nonsense. I mean, even for him, it was striking. It is just frightening that the amount of elder abuse that is going on here is just like, I don't know who's got the hand up his ass that makes him talk, but it's just scary. It's actually, before I show that part, I want to show this first part where this is CBS News, which is their job is to make the president and America look good at all costs. And yet even they are like, what do we show this video? It's just awful. It's kind of horrifying. Watch how out of it it's all right. Yeah, whatever.
I spent an hour and a half about 17 or 18 before. And I don't know how to say this. Virtually every mass shooting, every circumstance where a large number of people have been victimized and lost, I've spoken with them.
Oh, I can't. I don't know if I can handle anymore. It's just an extended death rattle. It's just my Joe Biden impersonation. But beyond that, and I know it's an easy thing to just make fun of, but the reason it's so horrifying is this is supposedly the guy in charge of the largest empire the world has ever seen. This is supposedly the guy making decisions of life and death around the world, and it's just and clearly who's actually making these horrifying decisions to just fight in Ukraine to the last Ukrainian, decisions to bomb endlessly Yemen, Afghanistan, Iraq, just wherever, the coups, the economic wars we do on countries, all of that. It's that one eyeball behind Joe Biden. You can see him right there. You see, that's his puppeteer most of the time. That's Blinken standing behind him without pupils because he's a lizard person. And he's just creeping behind him, just making sure he doesn't say anything too weird. Now, legit, they're trying to make sure that Biden, they don't know how his medication is going to work out. They don't know what he's going to say. Every once in a while, he just goes way off the rails. Like in that speech where he said that we have to take Putin out of power, which was a crazy admission for the White House, that the war in Ukraine was to create a coup in Russia. Like that, where the White House was like, whoa, holy God, don't. And so Blinken now stands 3 inches behind him to try and make sure he doesn't get that far off the rails. The lizard person behind him is there to basically, if Biden were to start going too rogue, Blinken would just tackle him, just full tackle, shoulder down, and then say he was helping him because he fell over or something. But so here's Biden answering the question about the hospital.
Some sense of hope, and that's, if I can do a little bit of that. You notice I don't say things like that. I can understand that.
You or the Israelis, that they didn't have anything to do with it? Do you have a message to the people?
I ache for him.
Sorry, I was at the wrong part. Here we go.
No. Zero. None.
Mr. President? How about the hospital, sir? People all over the region are upset about the hospital and don't necessarily believe you or the Israelis, that they didn't have anything to do with it. Do you have a message to the people in the street?
I love this reporter. Like, you notice how he phrases it? Now, I guess you give him some credit for asking the question. Hey, people don't believe you that Palestinian, that Gazans bombed their own hospital. So I'll give him some credit for asking the question. But you notice how he phrases it? He doesn't go, you expect us to believe this? This is nuts. Like, Israel's bombing schools, they're bombing medical clinics. So why would it be hard to believe they'd bomb this hospital? So rather than saying that, he goes, there are some people that are out there somewhere who say this sounds a little fishy for you to say Israel didn't bomb the hospital. Anyway, he phrases it like that to give Biden kind of an easier out.
Right now.
Well, I can understand why in this circumstance they wouldn't believe.
Oh, could you, Biden, understand why people wouldn't believe that Israel didn't bomb the hospital?
I can understand that. But I would not, you notice I don't say things like that unless I have faith in the source from which I've gotten them.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. In fact, you just did it a couple of days ago when you claimed you had seen video of the beheading of babies and it was fake. You had not, because they don't exist. And you had to retract. The White House had to walk back, as they say, those statements where you didn't just claim it happened. You said, I didn't. This is all practically a direct quote. I didn't think I'd ever see the day where I'd see video of beheading of babies. Well, you didn't. So that's part of it. So here he is saying, oh, I only say this stuff when I've seen the source. No, you don't. You say this stuff whenever you frickin' feel like it. Whenever it serves the purposes of U.S. propaganda, that is your job. That is the job of the black-eyed man behind you, is to just spit out nonsense and fake news. And here we're doing it again.
Our Defense Department says it's highly unlikely that it was Israelis would have a different footprint, and they've intercepted some anyway. Yeah. And so.
I like how he cuts himself off. He cuts himself off for two reasons. One is, if you really get into the details of how they proved it, it's all bullcrap. So he doesn't really want to get into the details of the proof that Israel didn't bomb the hospital. But beyond that, he also, I would imagine, considering you can see how his brain's working or not working, I would imagine at this point, he doesn't know what he's allowed, what's sensitive, what's classified, what he's actually seen versus what he's making up that he's seen. So when he starts saying things like, our Defense Department showed us, oh, that's right, I don't actually know if I'm allowed to say anything or what I'm allowed to say or what I was told to say or what. I mean, that's the thing is, I do actually, I don't know about respect. I'm impressed by some of these politicians who do a brilliant job of speaking as fast as, not Biden, but as fast as I'm speaking now, and yet everything they're saying is a lie. Meaning there is half of their brain is doing another thing, which is calculating what the lie is as they speak out of this side of the brain. And so they've got to constantly think, how's the lie going to work here? And, Obama was brilliant at it. A lot of them are brilliant at it. Trump, not very good at it because, yes, he was lying all the time, but he was also saying things that you're not supposed to say as a president, calling places shithole countries and stuff like that. So he wasn't very good at it in that regard. He's good at lying. I guess you can give him that. But most of them are. So Biden is, he's losing his ability to decide what's the lie, what's not the lie. Wow, all of this, and I haven't even gotten to what a terrific failure Biden's trip was. I'll get to that in a second, but
That's why.
Actually, no, let's get to that other clip. This is the more prepared remarks by Biden.
Today, I asked the Israeli cabinet, who I met with for some time this morning, to agree to the delivery of life-saving humanitarian assistance to civilians in Gaza.
Okay, first of all, that's what you got. You secured some trucks can come into God. That's it. Like a freaking bottles of water and stuff. Yes, do that. Send the bottles of water and the bread and stuff. Also, how about turn all the electricity back on? How about just allow the tons of water and food and medicine and everything? But beyond all of that, stop bombing them. How about that? Step one. I love the idea of humanitarian aid while you're bombing somebody. Stop bombing them is step one. Oh, we got a truck with some bottles of water coming in so that we can then hand out the bottles of water and then we'll bomb the people drinking the bottles of water. It's insanity. This is insanity because this is just a propaganda trick, right? You act like you're sending humanitarian aid. Hey, we're good guys as we're bombing children. I'm going to get to Chris Hedges in a few minutes, his article, and he goes into some of the numbers of just like how many thousands of people have been killed, over a third of them children. Just nuts. It's pure insanity. And here Biden flies over to Israel and goes, I secured some bottles of water that they're actually going to be tossing them over the fence like Donald Trump tossing paper towels out to people in the Puerto Rico hurricane mess. They're just going to be throwing bottles of water. No, stop bombing. That's the best kind. Oh, that's such a good kind of humanitarian aid. Stop bombing.
Based on the understanding that there will be inspections, that the aid should go to civilians, not to Hamas.
Yeah. That's an excuse to not send aid. I've already talked to you on other shows. This stupidity of like, oh, we're only hitting Hamas. Hamas is the government of Gaza. It's an elected government. So yes, you could say Hamas fighters, but when you talk about Hamas, they're the government. It'd be like saying that you're going to, bomb everyone in America, everyone in the United States who it lives near a government office think about how much is government in the United States. You've got public transport, you got water systems, you got electricity, you got the construction crews out front here filling the potholes. That's all government. So if you were to title them all Hamas and then just bomb them and anything near them, you're basically bombing everyone. They're bombing everyone. And they're saying, oh no, we're aiming at Hamas. That's nonsense. A, that can't be done. B, you're not doing that because it can't be done. It's nonsense. And so this idea we're going to send water in, but only the good guys get the water. That, yeah, by your definition, you're stupid, dumb.
To agree, the humanitarian assistance can begin to move from Egypt to Gaza. Let me be clear. If Hamas diverts or steals the assistance, they will have demonstrated once again that they have no concern for the welfare of the Palestinian people.
They have no concern for the welfare of the Palestinians. No, you and Israel have no concern for the welfare of the Palestinians. Long before Hamas did their prison break and burst into Israel and took hostages, long before that, Israel was showing their disregard for Palestinians, only giving them 4 hours of electricity off in a day, not enough water, making everybody there's drinking dirty water just to survive, limiting the number of calories that we get through, limiting the number of medicine. It is an absolute open air prison. Most of them never will get to leave in their entire lives, at least so far. And the idea that, oh yeah, they'd show disregard for the Palestinian people. This is such an unbelievable level of nonsense and propaganda. And the idea of standing in front of other human beings and spewing this, God.
And it will end. As a practical matter,
everything he says sounds like a death rattle. It's just, I mean, he can barely open his eyes anymore. It's just, now, here's the thing. I don't think you should make fun of people when they're this old unless they think they should be president. Then you can make fun of them. Like my grandpa looked like that at the end. But for the last year. But the thing was, he didn't move from the couch. He sat on the couch in a diaper, and we all would come and say, "Hey, Grandpa, I'm your grandson." And he'd go, and I don't think he should have been made fun of, but he wasn't sitting in the Oval Office. Why? Why is this partially embalmed, taxidermied thing acting like he's going to lead the empire as it just kills civilians around the world? And I include Israel in our empire. We are tied enough together at the ass cheeks, for Israel is part of the U.S. empire, and we have protected them throughout their life as a country, as an apartheid state, and they have nuclear bombs that we pretend they don't, although there's been an occasional slip up here or there. Whereas every other country with nuclear bombs, it's a big discussion. There are investigators, there are inspectors. We talk about how many nuclear bombs. Israel's the only country where we're just like, I don't know what's going on over there.
And will stop the international community from being able to provide this aid.
By the way, in terms of the providing of aid, you'll notice he say allow it to go from Egypt into Gaza. The one opening that used to be still open before it's basically been shut down goes from Gaza into Egypt. Now, Egypt isn't allowing most refugees in right now either. People are trying to secure that. But part of the reason, and I read this in one of your mainstream media articles, that even if these aid trucks, they said there's 20 aid trucks packed to the brim with aid waiting to be allowed into Gaza. But even once they're allowed, so even let's say Israel says, yeah, we won't bomb them. Even if Israel says that, even if Egypt allows it to go through, etc., the reason they can't go through is because the way the article described it is the let's see, maybe it's this article, but they say that the crossing has been damaged. They say the crossing has been damaged in the battle in Gaza. Now, the crossing is in the south of Gaza, and you know what they mean by damaged. It wasn't Hamas that blew up the road out front the crossing. It was Israel, which intentionally, clearly, blew up the road to the crossing into Egypt in order to stop aid trucks. So that's the reason that road, that passageway, is not operable for trucks right now, is clearly because Israel bombed it. There's no other reason that could have happened, but the article asks, it got damaged in the fighting of the war. This is not a war. This is a genocide. There's a difference.
We're working in close cooperation with the government of Egypt, the United Nations, and its agencies like the World Food Program and other partners in the region to get trucks moving across the border as soon as possible. Separately, I ask Israel that the global community demand that the International Red Cross be able to visit hostages.
So that might be a weird slip up. He says, I'm demanding that Israel allow the Red Cross to visit hostages. Now, he might mean hostages, the hostages that Hamas has taken. I don't know that the Red Cross right now would have access to the Hamas hostages, even if Israel allowed it. It's possible he meant wounded or something. It's also possible that it was a slip up and he meant the hostages Israel has taken. Here's the thing, folks, when you're discussing the hostages that Hamas has taken into Gaza, yeah, it's horrific. And I don't endorse hostages of any kind. However, you should also point out when you're mentioning those that Israel has thousands of hostages, thousands of Palestinians that they have arrested for nothing. They won't even charge them because they don't even charge them with in their prisons right now. So Hamas has something like almost 200 hostages right now. Israel has thousands that many of them they've had for years. So let's just remember that when you're saying hostages. There are hostages on both sides right now. There's about 200 in Gaza, and there's thousands in Israel. Okay? Important point that is not made enough. Because these are not criminals. They went into Gaza or the West Bank or one of the territories, and they just grabbed up Palestinians that they didn't like. Some of them may have been activists, often peaceful, nonviolent activists. Grabbed them, put them in prison. One of the most famous ones was Ahed Tamimi a few years ago. Young girl, I don't remember the age she was at the time, very young, early teens. And they basically, they arrested her for screaming at IDF soldiers for saying, get the hell out of here, on her own land, on her own porch, or whatever, front yard, if it's a yard even. And they arrested, and those are the type of arrests they do. Now, they ended up letting her out after, several weeks or something, which because of the international uproar. But in general, they would not do that. In general, they would arrest someone screaming at IDF and, leave them in prison for weeks, years, months, whatever. So how is that not a hostage? That's a hostage. But yeah, thousands.
I just demanded that the United States fully supports. Today, I'm also announcing $100 million in new U.S. funding for humanitarian assistance in both Gaza and the West Bank.
Okay, first of all, I'm announcing $100 million. The idea of raining bombs down at the same time you're dropping dollars is just, that is beautiful propaganda. That is a level of just capitalist repulsiveness that I didn't know I could ever imagine. You couldn't dream that up. We're going to drop dollars. They're going to flutter down as we drop the bombs, just on both, just equal bombs per. Israel's already dropped thousands of bombs. Equal parts bombs and dollars. It's just insanity. But beyond that, 100 million sounds like a lot compared to the U.S. defense budget. Sorry, I'm using the euphemisms. You fall into the euphemisms. It's just nice and squishy, and you fall into the euphemisms. According to the U.S. Pentagon, or the U.S. Giant machine of mass human murder, that their budget, the Pentagon budget, is $1 trillion when you include the black budget, the dark budget they don't tell us about. Over $1 trillion. 100 million is spent every minute. It is nothing. It is a sneeze. It's a fart. Biden just farted dollars in the direction of Gaza. It is nothing. Nothing. And so we've just announced $100 million. It shouldn't even, it's honestly, they spend $51,000 on a trash can. Literally. The trash can, the specialized trash can for the F-35 is $51,000 for a trash can. They don't know. In the last audit, the Pentagon said they couldn't account for half their assets. They have no idea where their stuff is. They spend so many trillions a year that it's just, who cares? Who knows? But they're going to give 100 million to send in aid. Yeah, what do you want to bet they send that 100 million to aid for Gaza to Israel? You do it, Israel. Use this money to give aid to Gaza, and Israel's like, yeah, we'll totally do that. We'll absolutely. All right, sorry, I didn't know I'd spend so long on that, but he is, good God, it is. Oh, it's like he is meaningless and achieved nothing. By the way, he went over there. He didn't achieve a ceasefire. They voted in the UN against a ceasefire. The U.S. voted in the UN. Let me repeat this. The U.S. voted in the UN against a ceasefire. No, they voted. We want to continue genocide right now. That's what they voted for. That's what they voted for, along with the UK and France and a few others. Okay, I want to show you this clip of Mark Lamont Hill. Now, this is fascinating in a few reasons. He nails this Israeli official. He destroys him in the most beautiful way. It made me laugh. It made me jump up and dance. It is the best. Also, Mark Lamont Hill is an interesting case study because he was fired from CNN several years ago. He was kind of a rising star at CNN. He was a regular contributor. I don't know whether they'd had him. I think they'd had him guest host some shows, and it seemed like he was going to get his own show. Fired from CNN for speaking at an event, not on camera, so not on CNN, at a separate event, not being televised, speaking to people and saying Palestine should be free. That's what he said. Got him fired at CNN a few years ago. So here he is. He's now, I guess, a host at Al Jazeera. And here he is speaking to and that's where the other thing is, Al Jazeera, that's where America, if Americans want to speak the truth, they either have to go on YouTube like this. By the way, join me at Rumble. Oh, I'm forgetting. Okay, let's do that. Rumble.com. We'll do it in a minute. Rumble.com/Lee Camp. It's free to go over there. That's where this live stream will continue. I got more for you. I'm going to play this clip for everyone, though. But rumble.com/Lee Camp. Completely free to join me over there. I'll grab the link for you in a second. But Al Jazeera, that's where, when you speak the truth as an American host or anything, or even comedian, when you speak the truth, you either get banished to other platform, online platforms. I'm on Rumble and some on YouTube, etc. You either get banished to other platforms, or you end up on a foreign news channel. I was on RT. He's now on Al Jazeera. Those are the only places that will let you speak out against war, for peace. You have to be in a foreign freaking country to do that. Okay, so here's the link, by the way, for the rumble.com/Lee Camp. You don't have to sign in or anything. You just go over there, click play, and you can join us, and it's completely free. So I hope everyone will do that. But all right, so here is Mark Lamont Hill dealing with a Israeli official.
I'm saying we will do everything for.
This is the Israeli deputy foreign minister, and they're talking about collective punishment. Collective punishment is illegal under the Geneva Convention. It means that they're punishing innocent civilians for the crimes of, fighters or soldiers or whatever.
I'm saying we will do everything for the Gazan people. Once and now, we demand immediate surrender, unconditional surrender of Hamas. If Hamas people come out with their hands up and clear their weapons, believe me, everything will be restored to Gaza. It is Hamas in Hamas hands.
Okay, now I understand. Thank you for clarifying that, sir. I think we're actually on the same page here. You're saying that once Hamas leaves, you'll grant the Gazan people food, shelter, fuel, electricity, hospitals, schooling. And if they don't, and if Hamas doesn't leave, then they'll continue to starve and die in hospitals. You are defining for the international community right now collective punishment. You're saying until Hamas acts differently, the 2 million people in Gaza are going to be treated this way. And once Hamas acts differently, these 2 million people in Gaza will be treated better. That is exactly what collective punishment is. You're holding them accountable for the actions of others. That is the definition, the textbook definition of collective punishment, sir. Now you may accept that that's.
It's incredible. And collective punishment is a war crime under the Geneva Convention. It is a war crime. This Israeli official just announced to the world, we are committing, our stance is war crimes. Illegal under international law. Multiple different charters, multiple different conventions, illegal under international law. The Israeli official just defined their position as a war crime.
That's what you want to do. But this is absolutely a contravention of international law.
That was so beautiful. What a great mic drop. He said, I realize we're in agreement on this. We're in agreement that you're committing war crimes. And the guy, you can see, he actually nods at first before he realizes what Mark Lamont Hill is doing to him. He goes, you're saying that until Hamas surrenders, you're going to treat all of the 2 million people like this, no food, no water, etc. And the guy nods before he realizes that Mark Lamont Hill was then going to go, okay, that's a war crime, sir. I like how he still calls him sir. I want to give you a lot of respect here as I let you know that you are a war criminal on par, on that long list of wonderful war criminals over the years. The Hitlers and the Pol Pots and the all that wonderful list. You're right there on it. Congrats. And the United States, of course. I don't want to leave us out. Just about every single U.S. president has been a war criminal. So the U.S. is right up there on that list. Very high on that list. I mean, I think we occupy actually the top 20 spots. I feel like you guys want to see the first part of this one more time because this just feels so good. This is like rubbing a hot fudge sundae on your naughty parts. That's what this is. If you haven't tried that, that's where it's at.
Saying we will do everything for the Gazan people. Once and now, we demand immediate surrender, unconditional surrender of Hamas. If Hamas people come out with their hands up and clear their weapons, believe me, everything will be restored to Gaza. It is Hamas in Hamas hands.
Okay, now I understand. Thank you for clarifying that, sir. I think we're actually on the same page here. You're saying that once Hamas leaves, you'll grant the Gazan people food, shelter, fuel, electricity, hospitals, schooling. And if they don't, and if Hamas doesn't leave, then they'll continue to starve and die in hospitals. You are defining for the international community right now collective punishment. You're saying until Hamas acts differently, the 2 million people in Gaza are going to be treated this way. And once Hamas acts differently, these 2 million people in Gaza will be treated better. That is exactly what collective punishment is. You're holding them accountable for the actions of others. That is the definition, the textbook definition of collective punishments.
Textbook definition of war crimes. Thank you. Thank you, Israel, for showing us who you are, for being very clear on this. We appreciate it. Okay, folks, I am about to bring to you the State Department official, and as well as Chris Hedges' article. Oh, man, can't even get it all in. Oh, God, I don't know. Maybe I have to do that story. Anyway, all of this is at rumble.com/LeeCamp. There are 500 of you who are not at rumble.com/LeeCamp. I'm about to bring you the State Department official who has resigned because of what the U.S. is doing in terms of Israel right now. That doesn't normally happen. That is a big deal, because these State Department officials, in order to get their positions, in order to work their way up in the world, in order to get to where they are, they had to agree with everything the U.S. was doing. So it's very rare that one of them says, this is too much, I can't do this anymore. And that's what this official has just done. So big news there. All right, I'm going to bring you all of that at rumble.com/LeeCamp. I already put the link in the chat. It is free to watch there. And obviously, if you're on my locals page, if you're a member there, all of this will continue as well. And for those who want to become members, go to LeeCamp.net, and it'll take you to my locals community. You can be a part of the community. You can join. It's $6 a month, 38 cents an episode, and you can post your own stuff. You can comment. You can meet awesome people. All of that's at LeeCamp.net. Also, if you want news outside of the corporate media, go to radindiemedia.com, RADINDIE media.com. That is free to use as well. But all of the rest of this is at rumble.com/LeeCamp. Join me over there.